It's a beautiful baby boy. Alright, back underneath the car. Since we have a lot more room and a lot more visibility, check that out. We're gonna go ahead and remove that bolt for that oil line. I don't know if it's the feed or return. However, we're gonna go ahead and break that loose. That way when we tilt this turbo back, we're not cracking lines. Yeah, as soon as we get that off, we'll come over here. I believe that's gonna be our banjo bolt, but yeah, we'll go ahead and get that out of there. And there's one right above it. Right there. We're gonna break that one loose as well. Alright, here's that 12mm holding that oil line to the block. Comes off just like that. So now that the handy dandy exhaust manifold is off, pretty healthy one, huh? Really good shape. So I'll definitely be keeping this. People are always looking for Rally Art ones. So I'm just gonna set her right there. Alright, since the exhaust manifold is now gone, all that's left is the turbo and its lines. So there's the coolant line. I still have all the coolant in here. I don't want to risk losing too much, so I may drain it, but in the meantime, there is a 10mm bolt right here that holds that oil line. You run your hand across it. There's going to be another one about right here that we'll get access to underneath the car. Get the banjo bolt off the oil, and I think that'll be it. We'll be able to take her out. I just need to figure out what I'm going to do with that coolant. But like the other two bolts, this was a 10mm as well. The final stretch, disconnected all the little boost lines over there, vacuum lines, whatever you guys want to call it. All that's attached right now is this coolant line and the banjo bolt down there. Everything else is free to move this turbo out. Alright, for that banjo bolt, you can already see I got my hex head on there. It's a 17mm. So that's what we're going to be using to take that off. So surprisingly, that bolt was really easy to get off. I was kind of skeptical because it was a bigger size bolt. However, it came off nice and easy. It's not completely off yet, but I was able to break it off easy. And I'm doing the rest of it by hand right now as we speak. I've never done these type of bolts before. Hopefully there's not a whole bunch of oil or something that comes out. I don't know what to expect. So I spoke a little too soon. As soon as I started undoing that banjo bolt, oil was coming out. And I'm not really sure how much oil is actually up in there, top of the head or whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain the oil. I'll do an oil change before I start the car. And that way I don't have to really worry about anything spilling over. Don't want to make too big of a mess. So I'll go ahead and drain the oil pan and continue going forward. So while the oil is draining, I can go ahead and reattempt to do that banjo bolt. I just leave this oil pan down below just in case stuff does spill over. Like I said, I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow. So as you can see, it wasn't too much. Kind of drained up. And there's our banjo bolt right there. So it's all disconnected. So since I drained the oil, I'm going to go ahead and do the radiator as well. Go ahead and do the coolant flush. Nice blue color. Alright, so oil is now drained. Coolant is now drained. We got about 2 quarts out of there. Keep in mind, there's still some here. Just kind of took out the hose, but there's some still left in there. So just about over 2 quarts of coolant. Kind of nice to remember that. But now I feel like I can go ahead and remove that without spilling a whole bunch of mess all over the garage. Alright, that was a battle. Nothing but coolant everywhere. But you know what? The turbo's ready to come out. It's a beautiful baby boy. For those of you that have kids and watch childbirth, that's what it looks like. All the tools, all the blood. But you know what? It's finally out. It is finally out. So yeah, look at all that coolant all over the place. That's after draining it as well. So I probably could have clamped it off a little better, but you know what? It's out. That's all that matters. And like I previously said, I'm gonna go ahead and do a new oil change, coolant flush, and all that stuff anyways. I'm gonna have this car running in tip-top shape. So let's go ahead and give you guys a quick rundown before I clean up for the day. I'm not touching anything else on this car right now. So here is our TD04 turbo with both of our lines. Here were those two 10mm bolts I was talking about, 1, 2. Here was that banjo bolt that ended up being that 17mm. A little 10mm went here into their block. Now this was your two coolant lines, right? One's a feed and one's a return. I don't know which one's what. However, that's what caused all that mess and ruckus up there. Now you look inside, you have your two studs and you have two bolts. This right here is your gasket, of course. Sits like this, I think. Yep, sits like that. And here's a fire ring everybody always talks about. So that sits there and has a lip. So that's another reason why, if you just do an exhaust manifold trying to swap that out, that's another reason people get caught on. They don't really clear this. They clear that, clear the studs, but they don't really clear this. So there is your fire ring, your gasket. Kind of keep that all together. The turbo itself looks really good. It's in really good condition. There's no play. I'm really happy with it. So I changed this out right before 60,000 miles. I think it's like 58,000 on the car, or 59,000, something like that. So it is a relatively used but still new turbo. Here is our exhaust manifold. Here's our little gasket. I'll probably reuse that. This is still in good condition. And here's the exhaust manifold itself. No cracks that I see right off the bat. Pretty heavy sucker. But, yep, there's that. And of course, our downpipe. O2 housing to downpipe. That thing was a pain in the butt too. So, yep, there's all those parts. Now throughout the video I wasn't really showing you guys, but I was actually keeping track of all the parts, like turbo bracket to the hell bolt. So that's your hell bolt holding the turbo housing to the block. So there's that. So I'm going to be keeping all these parts all together.